Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Squat Cobbler. I am Dr. Mike at Official Pagan on everything, and joining me, as always,
Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Mike on official. No, I'm not. I know it looks like I am, but I'm not. I'm Kelly at KELLYTHUL on Twitter and Instagram. Please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing, ordering a
buying a
t-shirt,
t-shirt.
buying a t-shirt. Absolutely. Tattoos remain optional. It'd be a strong sign of support, but we'll leave that to your better judgment.
Optional for now.
Yeah. We're pondering. We're still going through
We'll see what happens in future episodes.
the squat constitution to figure out what's required.
Now, Kelly, you have a very interesting background tonight.
Yes, I do. I bought a former doctor's office. I'm going to pretend that I'm a doctor, uh, and then I'm going to work. There's a little too much lighting. I'm going to work on that. I'm going to get the lighting pulled down a little bit. But yeah, I thought I'd give it a go. This is a work in progress. So this is stage one of me slowly being able to completely replace Mike. Do the show. This is stage of more to come, but this was the first start. I'm pleased with it though. It was a good start.
No, it looks good. I like it. I especially like I don't know how you were able to so perfectly recreate it down to getting the two guitars that I have hanging up behind me, especially since one was a limited edition guitar for the Orange Amp anniversary. Good job, sir.
Yep. I spared no expense to take care of all that stuff. So yeah. Yeah, I wanted to be screen accurate.
I appreciate it. It's those small touches that make our show stand out.
Indeed.
Well, tonight we're here to talk about a little company. Hold on, I wrote their name down in my notes here. Little indie startup, Netflix. Have you heard of them, sir?
Yeah, I get packages in the mail from them all the time. Get all my movies that way.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't remember, this Netflix started by mailing you DVDs. Now, were you a Netflix subscriber back in those early days, sir?
I was not. I was a Blockbuster consumer. So another reference that means nothing to any of our younger listeners.
You're going even further back, sir.
Yeah. Well, it was, yeah, but they were still kicking. When Netflix started, they were still kicking, but
they were. So I have a little bit of a Netflix story, not to take us off on a tangent, because it's not a tangent. This fits to it. So my first movie that I worked on was a movie called Evil Bong. And we had pre-sold a very large number of DVDs to Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, which were the two remaining video chains at that time. There was another one in the Midwest, but they had maybe like a tenth of the amount of stores that Blockbuster and Hollywood Video still had at that time. And Netflix was already existed and was very quickly gaining steam through their DVD mailing service that they were doing. So Netflix was already picking up, but the way that Netflix worked was no matter what your movie was, you could be the new Disney movie or Marvel movie or whatever, or it could be a movie that you shot in your basement on your cell phone, which especially back then would have looked terrible, the cell phone cameras of the time. The way that it worked was Netflix would order, because again, Netflix isn't a chain. It was just one place that was mailing these DVDs. So they would order I don't remember the exact number, but let's just say 5 copies of the movie, whatever the movie was. So you put out a new movie, they ordered 5 copies. If they're mailing it out, and the thing about Netflix that made them stand out was there was no late fees. So you could order one of these DVDs and keep it as long as you wanted. You're only hurting yourself because you only got so many DVDs at a time. And in order to rent more movies on top of that, you had to pay extra. So that was your incentive to keep them moving. So what they would do if those, let's just say those 5 were mailed out a lot, more people were requesting it, then they would order another 10 copies of your movie. And if those were doing well, then they would start putting in bigger orders. So even on huge blockbuster movies, that's the way it worked. It might have been slightly larger numbers, but the same thing, a very small order at first, because they didn't want to give up the floor space for it. They didn't have 500 stores to put it in, which makes sense. So Warner Brothers distributed Evil Bong. And Warner Brothers contacted this Netflix that half of the people who worked on the movie had never heard of before. And they took the 5 copies of Evil Bong. So we all got the idea of, we're going to get Netflix accounts. We're going to rent those 5 copies and not return them. So then Netflix ordered, 10 or whatever the second order was. So we reached out to more people who worked on the movie. We're like, hey, sign up for Netflix, get Evil Bong, and don't return. Very quickly, Netflix had like 1,000 copies of Evil Bong. So that's how I came to know Netflix. And before long, they had started streaming, but their early streaming, it was metered. It was built into your plan. So depending on how many DVDs you could rent per month with your plan. So I want to say it was like 1, 3, and 5, something like that. You got a certain number of streaming minutes attached with each one. So I had like the 5 DVD plan. I could watch like 45 minutes of streaming video or something like that. So you couldn't watch a whole movie. So you had to time it where you could watch like a chunk of the movie. And then when your service would kick over for the next month, you'd get the second half of the movie essentially that you could watch. And it was an extremely limited number of movies. They had like 10 movies or something you could stream on there. It was pretty crazy. They would not take Evil Bong for that though. Not because they were mad at us for what we did, because I'm sure we're not the only ones who thought of that. Warner Brothers had made a deal to distribute the movie digitally to everybody who had an Xbox. So if you had an Xbox, you could stream Evil Bong. So they didn't want to deal with all that. So now it's streaming everywhere, and it's never streamed on Netflix because of that.
Yeah, I think it might be on Tubi currently. I'll have to go back and
it's on Tubi now. It's on Amazon Prime. It's been on everything. It's on everything except Netflix for streaming because they were mad about the Xbox thing. So these things happen, but I'm sure in hindsight it was the better thing for us. Our demographic was the Xbox demographic. So.
Yep, definitely. Good call there.
But yeah, I became a fan of that Netflix that I signed up for just so we could get them to order more DVDs. And I've had Netflix ever since. So what was your introduction to them, sir?
Boy, that's a great question. It would have been a great thing for me to do, prepare for the show, was to come back.
One of us is prepared.
Yeah, somebody did it. You would think, both living in the same exact house, we do the same exact amount of preparation, but no. No, I just think I entered the streaming world with great skepticism. But that initial, when Netflix actually began to, hey, we're going to stream movies, and your kind of entry into it was dirt cheap. Your monthly. And some of it may have been still, some of that metering may have been around. You were certainly no longer in the 45-minute camp, but there may have been some early restrictions. But it was just such a low monthly cost to have access to a large number of movies that I just kind of pulled it in and said, yeah, I think this is a good way to go. And then obviously things went crazy after that with what's going on with the way streaming goes. And so it just originally started to say, hey, this is a cheap way for me to get access to a larger number of movies, not have to mess with the physical media, return it, all that kind of stuff. So it seemed like a good way to go. And
you hit on something interesting there. Now, are you still a physical media guy, or do you tend to stick digital with things?
So for movies and TV series and all that, I've really kind of gone to, what's the point in having physical media? I think for a certain couple things. So like we're a big Army of Darkness fan. And so I have like a director's cut of that with extra director commentary and interesting stuff like that. And so occasionally I might go into, I got the Breaking Bad collector series. So it's all the Breaking Bad stuff on physical media, but you got all kinds of other little goodies with it as well. So more on a collectible level now, it almost is when I go physical media. But for anything else, it's like, why do I want to take up the space when if there's something I want to see, I'm either going to be able to see it for free on one of the gazillion streaming services I currently have, or if push comes to shove, for $2 or $3, I can rent it on Amazon and watch it that way. So for movies, I've really moved away from it entirely. I'm getting there with music, but I still kind of like to have that physical CD. So, I mean, all the way up to Alice's most current release, I still get a physical copy. I mean, it obviously gets put on all my stuff so I can stream it, and that's really the way I consume it most of the time. But I've got the CD case, I got the lyrics, I've got the physical item as well. So I've had a harder time for somebody like Alice, for stuff, Alice Cooper stuff that I really love. I still get that physical media, but I'm going more and more digital otherwise. How about you?
Unfortunately, digital, and I think took to digital a lot earlier than some of my friends did, and it was really because I had to. So I'm a big music collector, big movie guy. I got to a point where I had at one time over 10,000 records and CDs. So there was an entire room that was just vinyl records at one point. I was like, huh, this is not practical after a certain point. And there was a time period where I was moving a lot, mostly because I was largely on the road. A couple years ago, we did 5 countries in one year that we toured. And so in the before times when you could do things like that. So I was away a lot for a while there and moving around and things like that. So it just trying to move that and store that and all just became more and more problematic. So I didn't love the idea of switching to digital, but it was more like something I had to do. Now I do appreciate having access to so much music, though. You can subscribe to something like Spotify or Apple Music for $10 a month, and there's millions of albums on there. So I do appreciate having access to things that I wouldn't necessarily buy and the ability to try things that I otherwise wouldn't have tried because I wasn't going to put out $15 to purchase an album that I had maybe just a passing interest in. I still buy physical media as far as music goes, mainly on vinyl and cassette. If I really like an album, I'll pick up a vinyl copy of it, things like that. CDs, I haven't bought a CD in quite some time. Movies, I'm pretty much there as well. Other than, like you said, the occasional box set or things like that. The most recent thing, I think it came out last year. There was a Friday the 13th Blu-ray box set that came out that came with all kinds of extras, a book and posters and different things. So like that I purchased, but that was probably the only physical media copy of a movie I bought that whole year.
Yeah, and I know you folks are probably all getting tired of all this retro gaming content we've given you so far on this show. But there's a reason we were talking. What's that?
We promise it's in here.
Yeah, it's you're so close. Just
So,
hang in there a little bit longer.
a couple more seconds. You're going to get there.
It's about to. So, have there been any developments, Mike, recently with Netflix you'd like to talk about?
There has. So Netflix is jumping on, I don't know if you can call it a bandwagon, but they're not the first ones to try it. But they're jumping on the streaming gaming concept, which has, it's been done a little bit by Amazon. Google took a real hard swing at it with Stadia. Yeah.
Kind of a swing and a miss, but they took a swing.
Yeah. I mean, it hasn't officially like shut down or anything yet. They haven't, pulled support for it, but like I've never met somebody who has a Stadia or is a big supporter of that platform. So I feel like I love the idea of streaming gaming, but it doesn't seem like they've nailed it yet. But I feel like if anybody's going to, it is Netflix.
Yeah, and I think so they're definitely dipping their toe in the water with some commitment that they say, hey, this is something we're gonna do in some shape or form, is get into the gaming thing. And you think a little bit, they've lost, they used to be, just the market leader, untouchable. And that's really no longer. Now they have very healthy competition challenging them on a regular basis. So it's not a given that Netflix can keep its subscriber base anymore. So they're looking to say, how do I make the offering more compelling? And much like Amazon, and we've talked about this on a previous retro gaming show, there's free games with Prime. There's games that you can download. There's games that you can play online. There's games that you can stream to your At Games Legend Ultimate and play that way. And so some pretty cool stuff. But it just rounds out the offering. If you're going to be spending money, they want to keep that subscription with you. So I think they're continuing to look at the value adds. The real interesting thing to me, so I think the whole idea of if you get streaming gaming right, I think it could be a real game changer. And we'll include a link to this article in the video description. But their first two releases, Netflix's first two releases of gaming, have been mobile games that you download. Two of them, and they both were released in Poland. And so the softest of all soft rollouts to kind of test some things out. So I'm not sure Netflix is 100% sure what's going to be the right way to go to market. I originally scratched my head to say why that almost doesn't make sense. But if you think about it, and I don't know what your usage of Netflix is. Mine's on home systems, on a Roku. I mean, that's how do it. So I'm watching it on a screen or a projector. I'm at home. I don't do a lot of Netflix watching on my mobile phone. But you get the Netflix app on your mobile phone, you've got your credentials in there, and boom, you now have another potential media library to go in and pull down what will become exclusive games. I think that a lot of the intention is to make, although one of them is a Stranger Things game that's already been released on a lot of different platforms. So it'll be interesting to see, but they are making some promises, like they're not going to have any microtransactions in any of their games. So that this would be just kind of a pure gaming thing. So if it's largely a place I want to keep my subscriber base and give them just a little more candy, and it becomes, I get cool mobile apps for my phone that I don't get hammered with all this kind of microtransaction stuff, could be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love, like I said, I like the idea specifically of streaming gaming. I just feel like they haven't nailed it yet, Stadia. It hasn't happened yet. And I wonder if part of it too is because, like, Stadia, I hate to sound like I'm picking on them, but it's a good example. One of the things that they promised was you were going to be able to essentially play games that were on the level of PS5 and Xbox One and things like that, and be able to stream it without any significant lag or anything along those lines, which is, from my understanding, not the way it's been working out. But that's the idea behind it. So I do wonder, are you going to see more mobile style games or retro style games to kind of make up the difference there?
Yeah, you would think you'd have to, because we're still, a couple G's away. I have to go to 4G, 5G, whatever. A couple G's.
I'm barely even magnetized.
Yep, it's like we've got a lot more antennas that get stuck into our head before we can really get to that, dedicated game system level quality with no lag and pushing a lot of data across the fiber optics in a hurry. So we'll get there, but we're not there yet. And so I think it's an interesting play. It will be intriguing to watch how things continue. I'm looking forward to them breaking out of Poland at some point in time as a delivery country. Maybe something in the United States would be pretty cool.
I am taking a little bit of personal offense to all this negative anti-Poland.
I'm jealous of Poland. Here they are with access to the 2 Netflix mobile games that I don't have. So maybe you can put in a good word and see what you can do to have them export them to us legally. Of course, we'll pay for the ROMs.
Legally, absolutely,
100%.
But I am looking forward to it. I feel like if anybody can do this, it is Netflix. For everything that all of the other services offer, and like you said, they do have genuine competition now. It's not just other companies that are aping what they do. Disney offers their bundle with all of the Disney package, everything that Hulu has, and then if you like sports, all of the ESPN stuff, for a price that's comparable to the basic plan of Netflix. Yeah. Because Netflix is the only one of the bigger streaming services that actually makes you pay extra to stream in 4K. So things like that. So they do have real competition. And that also brings up a point of, do you think they're going to charge more if you want to stream games as well?
So I think at some point, if they go the pure streaming route, um, they're going to have to at some point. But I think that runs contrary. I still personally believe this is a retention move. This is I want to for this. Look what you get for this existing price. Yeah, this Disney bundle over here is really cool, but do you get games? Do you get And so I think it's a move to keep customers. I do think they're going to lean in here initially. I think what we'll see for the next year or two is it much more in the mobile space, and it just becomes if trying to get off the bubble, that if you're looking through, again, what a lot of us run into now is we're subscribed to a lot of different streaming channels, and every once in a while you kind of take a step back and go, how many of these do I really need? And I think Netflix will do a lot of stuff to stay off that consideration set to say maybe that's the one I get rid of. It's like, oh, I can't get rid of that. It just downloaded these 2 games and it was really cool. I want to keep doing that. I'm going to look at something else. So I don't think they're going to change their price. I really do think this is a way to say, I want to keep the subscribers I have right now at the price I have right now. And what's a way I can do it cost effectively? I got to add something. And this, because of all the IP rights they do have, there's probably some strength in some things that they can do that nobody else can do from an exclusive standpoint. So we'll see. But to me, I think they're going to stay in the mobile app world and not kind of go the Stadia route for a while. But none of it's clear. The roadmap's not been laid out. The Netflix overlords have not laid their plan out to say, here's what we're going to do beyond the fact saying we're getting into gaming.
Well, I think it's a lot to look forward to, and it's definitely a very interesting prospect.
Definitely.
You guys should let us know down in the comments what you think. Would you be willing to pay more to add gaming to your streaming? So, to be honest, I'm embittered that you have to pay more to stream in 4K.
Yeah.
So
that's fair. Cool. Yeah, no, as usual, we say it a lot. It's a good time to be a gamer. It's a good time to be interested in this stuff because lots of cool stuff's happening, lots of new offerings, and so it's always fun. And we hope you've enjoyed it. Please, if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing, and we'll catch you folks again soon. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everyone.